Okay, for this week, we'll start with a new topic. I think we completed budgetary control, okay, an overview. And then I think most important is for budgetary control. Okay, one, of course, the type of budgetary control that we discussed. And of course, later on we'll discuss on performance measurement. But I think one key ideas on budgetary control is to make sure that government agencies, they will not spend, their spending level will not exceed their budget allocations. I think that's the main one. Of course, it's a basic, I mean, that's the responsibility of controlling officers. Okay, as one of the main financial control, to make sure that they spend, I think that's the main idea. But on top of that, of course, we discuss. I give that idea of at the same time they are not. It's not only about spending. It's about they must use public money with value for money. Okay. So within that discussion, you need to understand. Okay. Now we move on to the new topic. Let me share. Okay, procurements. Right, it's a separate topic. Okay. Right, I think we'll try. We may or may not be able to complete the lecture. Right, but we'll see. Okay, from the topic, I think it's quite, it's a bit easy to understand. Procurement. Generally, when you see the word procurement, what comes to your mind? Class?
Payment.
Payments. Okay, one more. Procurements. Right. So generally, at least 30% or 40% of government spending involve procurements. So you can imagine if in case of national government they spend around 300 billion. So almost 100 billion is about directly related to procurements. So that's why I think there are other issues as well with procurements, but you can see that how the level of outsourcing, you can see that, and how public sector organizations and the government take the advantage of the expertise and the efficiency of the private sector to provide public services. Okay, I think that's the line. I mean the discussion. Okay, so we look at the objective, framework, and procurement in Malaysian government. Okay, procurement policies, principles, categories of procurements, and others. And of course, at the end, we talk about issues as well. Okay, definition. Basically, if we talk about procurement, it's about purchasing goods and services from the private sector providers and vendors. Okay, so it's not only purchasing goods and services, but also then later we see the scope of the procurements, okay, including works, and of course relying on private sector profit-making organizations. So I mean, I think the benefit of this partnership between public and private sectors in providing public services. So they can, in that sense, is also an initiative to improve value for money, okay, efficiency and effectiveness. Because generally, because if you look at the scope of works by the government, it's very diverse. Okay, with the goods and services they have to provide to the public. Then, in terms of providing those services, so the use of third-party entities, private sector companies, these are options the government can have. Okay, including nowadays, now use of technology, right? Previously, possibly it would be limited to maybe construction of roads, buildings, but nowadays use of technology is very high. Okay, communication technology and others. So definitely all this expertise government can draw from private sector, both locally and internationally. Okay, so for instance, like constructing airports. Okay, so airports construction. So only the global player can build airports, because because when you talk about airports, you are talking about planes, airlines from different countries. Okay, so they're not local airlines; they are international airlines. So they are international airlines. The country must follow the expectations of these major global airlines. That generally the major airlines, they rely on industry players, global players that are widely known about on basically constructing airports and airlines, because they want their plane to land. So of course they need to rely on someone that they trust. Okay, so that global players, okay, constructing the runway, and then the security of the airports. So all this, involve global players. So these are the issues. Of course, the source of suppliers by the government not only is limited to local suppliers, also international suppliers. I think in Malaysia is a big example of the use of international players. Okay, to build the local facilities. Okay, ranging from Twin Tower. Okay. What do you call it, Cal Central, and then recently we have what do we have in Johor, huge complex, oil and gas complex. Anyone in Johor? Anyone from Johor here? Yeah, Pengerang, I think LNG complex. Okay, worth 120 billion Malaysian ringgit. So definitely they need mainly the international players to build. They have the expertise, worldly renowned, and with together with the local suppliers. So these are the discussion that we are looking at. Cover a wide range of activities, supplies of office stationery and furniture, construction of new facilities, maintenance services, and training. Okay, so but your imagination should be very broad, because construction, as I mentioned, in procurements, it can be purchasing of supplies, okay, for office, to mega projects, okay, like Pengerang LNG complex, okay, or airports. Basically, they are public services, okay, so but involved the private sector entities for the development constructions. Okay, why procurement is subject to public scrutiny? Okay, these are, in other words, this also, you can try to understand why this topic is part of public sector accounting, right? Because in public sector, in accounting, we are very much concerned on use of resources. And then good use of resources to maximize the value, organizational value, or maximize profits. Of course, in the case when we discuss this in the context of government, okay, how all this government spending, including the procurements, basically enhance value for money to achieve, objective of public services. Okay, so the first one, the huge size of government procurements, right? So you can see that, of course, in total, OPEX and development expenditures, right, is almost 300 billion. But a big part of development expenditures generally, it is procurements, okay, big part of procurements, as well as operating expenditures where procurements have been undertaken at agency level. Right. Secondly, since public funds are involved in financing public procurements, there is a question of accountability. Okay, so when the civil servants, they discharge their duties to undertake procurements projects, so they must exercise, okay, to be fair, cost effective, transparent, right? So all these principles must be in place to ensure that they get good quality of services at a very fair cost that is basically have to be paid by the general public, okay, through taxations. Government procurement is a market that attracts the interest of businessmen, including multinational companies, right? So I think there are specific groups of international communities, business communities, where their aim is basically, or their business, okay, government is their major clients. Okay, it can be, I mean, in all sectors, okay, aviation, and big projects. Okay, nowadays I think major big projects can involve either construction or use of technology. These are the main one. Okay, can involve multi-billion dollars of projects. Then okay, so this also can be an issue. Okay, transparency, make sure that value for money must be there. Government in developing countries have been often been accused of not making the necessary purchases or procurements in the most efficient manner possible. Okay, so this how to go about it to make sure that when they involve in procurement process, they can achieve value for money. I think possibly in the earlier classes, one of you were asking this question. I couldn't remember that was specifically for procurements or for government agency as a whole. But since the procurement expenditures are huge, then if you discuss value for money that for each government agencies, then definitely the process of procurements must also be very good, following the best practice. Okay, procurement framework, agencies involved. I think procurements definitely all level of governments involve federal government. For sometimes for mega projects, it's under federal government and also state government. Government departments, agencies, including city bodies. Okay, and sometimes some projects are directly, if you look at construction, definitely under public work departments and CIDB. Okay, and because they can provide technical expertise. Local authorities and local government. Okay, these are agencies. I think, in other words, at all level of government, this procurement process have been undertaken. And I think at local authorities, I think closely related to us. I think if you look at what do you call it, rubbish collection. Okay, huge services by the local government. Can you imagine if there is weaknesses in rubbish collection? It will create big problems. I mean, waste and rubbish collection. I mean, the system is basically working both the local government and federal government. They work together to ensure effectiveness and efficiency of rubbish collection services. Okay, if it is not done correctly, the entire country will be badly affected. Okay, so these are examples. The level of and definitely was the use of procurement, outsourcing, to make sure that the services can be provided somehow the standards across the country can be maintained. Right, the legal and regulatory framework, you can see that it started right from the beginning, even a bit before independent. there is the Government Contract Act 1949 that gives the mandates for governments and government agencies to get involved in procurements, okay, to basically enter into contracts to get the third parties services. And then the Financial Procedures Act, okay, including the mode of control. And I think from time to time the Treasury instructions. I think it's very similar that the budget that we discussed is also applicable in procurements. Tender process, then we'll see, as an example, there are limits, a level of amount of procurements that are subjected to different level of procurement methods. And also, I think if you look at this nowadays, the government also have developed e-procurement to standardize, to streamline, and to improve the procurement process. That is basically applicable to the federal government as well as government agencies. Right. I think you should recognize as well the functions of the Treasury. So you can see that. What is that, brothers and sisters? The photo?
A plane.
Jet.
Yeah, this fighter jet. So fighter jet. Generally, I think in the country, fighter jet made or purchased by the government, isn't it? I think individuals, I don't think they're allowed to purchase fighter jet. So fighter jet is basically part of defense and purchased by the government, right? So of course, for technical specifications, sometimes the agency itself, they must have the expertise, okay, to determine the specs of the product and services that are required. On top of that, you see here the agencies have that involvement, as well as the Treasury also. There is a procurement division under Ministry of Finance. Of course, if you talk about guidelines, procedures, definitely to make sure that all government agencies, they have to follow so that they can, the money can be spent properly, okay? So responsible in handling the government procurement, issuing directive on procurement procedures for government and relevant department agencies to comply, okay? So they are central agencies, central body, so they can, compliance of all these regulations, definitely the duties of controlling officers to make sure that they are representative to follow all these procedures. But it's kind of expected, these guidelines, definitely to make sure that the government will, when they purchase, they will get something which is good for the government, for them to provide the services in terms of cost, in terms of quality. All this will need to be taken into account. Right, procurement policies, I think still relevant at this point. These are policies. I think once the Malaysian plan, 12 Malaysian plan will be announced, maybe some of these policies are changing. But since then, these are the existing policies. Okay, to look at this, to stimulate the growth of local industries to the maximum utilization of local materials and resources. Okay, so in other words, if government agencies get involved in the procurements, so they have to take into account this policy. To encourage and support the involvement of Bumiputra indigenous entrepreneurs in line with the nation's aspiration to create Bumiputra commercial industrial community. Okay, as a specific policy to increase and enhance the capability of local institutions and industries via transfer of technology and expertise. Okay, I think this point also reflects government can use procurement as part of their policy regime. I think, for instance, here about technology transfer. Okay, I think that has been an ongoing policy from the government. Try to upgrade to make sure that Malaysia is at par internationally with other countries in terms of, definitely one of them in terms of use of technology. So the government can encourage this kind of transfer of technology through their procurements, because they can put specifications within their contracts, purchasing products and services, to make sure that they are at par of the what is required nowadays. Okay. To stimulate and promote service-oriented local industries such as freight and insurance, I think from time to time, sometimes if there is a need, the government through their procurement process to ensure that they use local services. So in this case, insurance and traveling. And I think even recently, when they promote or announce Pemekasa to enhance further to help the SME entrepreneurs, and also one of them is to stimulate local tourism. I think government has a role through their procurement process to encourage the use of local facilities by the SMEs communities. To accelerate economic growth, whereby government procurement is used as a tool to achieve socio-economic and development objectives, right? Because the government spend, and of course their main focus is local consumption. Okay, that will create a trigger economic activities. So you can see that there is a twin edge of this procurement spending, just like government spending as a whole, that to have that multiply effects on economic activities. Right. With that, we also have these procurement principles. I think definitely these are under in the Malaysian government. Okay, but if you look at the principles here, is quite universal. Okay, universal in nature. And on top of that, definitely, if you look at procurement, general policies, and here principles, for certain countries, they may put it as part of their law. Okay, it's not only executive decisions. Okay, definitely, if you look at this procurement procedures, some is prescribed by in the statutes that all government agencies have to follow. The other is through treasury instructions. Okay, as we discussed, that the controlling officers have to comply. Right. It depends. Okay, if you look at the policies, I think because of the nature of the procurements, okay, and the technology and the scenario in the country is keep on changing. So that's why they try to make it flexible as possible. Because rather than just rigid, very rigid to support certain sectors or certain industries or technologies that after some years is no longer relevant to be used. Okay, so I think the government cannot should support that can those expenditures or spending that can, or services that can basically bring the country forward in terms of socio-economic development. So you can see these procurement principles: public accountability. Okay, so basically government agencies, they are accountable, or government as a whole, they are accountable to the public. Okay, so yeah, please define what public accountability is. Okay, secondly, value for money, very broad principle, but if you, and definitely value for money, as I mentioned many times in for public sector setting, it's about efficiency, economy, and effectiveness. Okay, so you can see very strong performance dimensions. So that is basically representing value for money. So in other words, in procurement process, they must make sure that this value for money is achieved. So there are stages of a procurement process, right from the beginning, awarding the projects, and then the executions of the works, and then at the end. Okay, so if it is construction works, then of course there is handover. So all this process, the entire process, must reflect value for money. Okay, so in terms of awarding the contract, the specifications, and then doing the executions to make sure that the product that is received need to be checked, to be tested, and then when it is used, that can basically reflect a value for money. Okay, fair dealing, okay, between between suppliers and the government. Okay, transparency, I think it's quite consistent. To be transparent, how much basically in terms of the purchasing itself must be made known to the users, to target groups or the stakeholders, and then in terms of their cost, okay, and the use of the facilities. Open and fair competition. I think generally procurement process to a certain extent sometimes they are required. There are the bidding process, okay, so that the best party or company should win to get the job, the procurement job from the government. So how to be able to do that? So there must be open and fair competition. Okay, everybody must receive same level of information when they compete. So there is no. That's why I think there are procedures and control to be able to achieve this open and fair competition in awarding projects. As I said, I think these are common understanding or common knowledge, because government projects generally they are huge amount of projects, okay, involving multi-billion dollars. So if you look at in the case of LNG in Pengerang, 126 billion. I think another example in Malaysia recently, the construction of LRT, isn't it, from Sungai Buloh to Kajang, Sungai Buloh to Kajang, isn't it? Okay, around 40 billion ringgit projects. Definitely open and fair competition is needed so that the project is awarded to a consortium or a team or a very capable service providers. Okay, any questions so far? Are you listening to me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Still,
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. I think we'll stop by 4:30 today. Another half an hour. Okay. Now we move on. Categories of procurements. So basically representing. So there are. I think this is what is prescribed in the policies. So works, supplies, and services. Okay. So works, right? So contracts of construction and engineering activities involving infrastructures and structures such as building, airports, highways, dams, drainage services. So if you look at the type of assets there, infrastructure assets, airports, highways, so you can see that this is the work of kind of projects and assets that is undertaken by governments. Of course, private sector providing those construction, but who the owner of the asset generally can expect that this is a government. Okay, for instance, like a water dam. So others. So that's work. That also can explain why we have this huge department, public work department. Okay, or in Malay we call it. What do we call it? Public work department. Do you know? The department in Malay. Public work department. Is it well known department to all of you? Public work department.
JPA.
JKR, Jabatan Kerja Raya. Okay, Jabatan Kerja Raya. They have Ministry of Works also. Because the Ministry of Works, Kementerian Kerja Raya, because they are monitoring all government projects. Okay, huge projects. For instance, like public hospitals. Okay, public hospitals across the countries. So to make sure that the public hospitals development, following the timeline, the schedules. Because I think there was one project delay. There was a huge problem last time. That was, I think, Hospital Shah Alam. Okay, Shah Alam at the government. I'm not sure is it completed, already completed, or still they have problems to complete the projects. So who is going to monitor the progress? So Public Work Department as well as Ministry of Works. Okay. Generally they will because sometimes what happened for public work department, because government agencies, this is not their main expertise. Okay, so let's say university. Okay, university, our main expertise is education, not buildings, not constructing buildings. Okay, so these are options that is available in the government. If you don't want to manage the project, you can outsource the monitoring of the projects to the public work department. Okay, of course the budget is given to the agency, right, as part of development budget, but the monitoring of the works can be outsourced to public work department because they have the expertise. Okay, they have groups of civil engineers and all experts that is in public work department. Okay, so we can outsource the projects to them, so they become the project manager. Okay, project manager of the construction. Okay, so then of course definitely the agency that receiving the funding or build the facilities belong to the agency can also get involved in the progress of the construction projects. Okay, so works, one scope, one category, the other is supplies. The supply of raw and intermediate or finished goods and product for any activity of users. Okay, construction materials, food products, uniform. Okay, so including in supplies. I think in government food products, okay, can be because I think we have so many boarding schools and government as well. And I think when you talk about people, definitely they always have time to eat, isn't it? So food is one of the major thing that need to be provided. Uniform, I think uniform is easy to understand because we have huge numbers of public servants in uniform type of agencies. Okay, like the army, okay, the police, okay, the fire brigades, right? All these are basically use uniforms. Let's say we talk about police. If I'm not mistaken, police is around 150,000 police force. So 150,000. Okay, how frequent they will be? They need new uniforms. Okay, I think the army is around 200,000. So I think RELA recently. Okay, I'm not sure RELA what is the arrangement about their uniforms. If it is fully funded by the government, they have I think 1 million or something. The huge force, the members of RELA. Maybe some of you also member of RELA. Are you? Anyone? No chat. Okay, so they wear uniforms. So you definitely procurement uniforms is good. The other is vehicles. Okay, you can see that. I think every government agency they have vehicles. So that's part of supply procurement supplies as part of procurement type. Furniture and others. Okay, services, engagement of manpower, expertise and consultant in the area of feasibility studies, research, designing, surveying, management, and others. Okay, I think engagement of experts definitely very heavily been done in the government. Okay, particularly it can be both. It can be local experts, it can be international experts. Okay. Sometimes there are certain issues where our government we don't have that enough exposure, so that we can engage with international consultant to make sure that they can advise, so that then we can do that properly. I think a simple example, okay, consultant, even among Malaysians, they also become consultants to other government agencies overseas. Okay. If you have that expertise. Even in education, I think we also sometimes be engaged by the universities outside to as part of their advisors to establish academic programs, for instance. Okay, so of course, I mean when they engage us basically through procurement process. Okay, repair, maintenance, cleaning services. This also, I think, cleaning services also can be a major items in procurement because of maintenance. It's all very important to provide good services. Okay, remember, because when we discuss about this scope of works of categories of procurements, in your mind also you should start thinking. So in these areas, okay, how to make sure that when government receiving the services, they can also make sure that they have this value for money. Okay, try to get yourself understand. So the process, okay, in terms of securing the services, okay, the use of the services to the end. You can say the whole cycle of procurements can also be considered. Right, these are procurement regime in a way that because of a different level of expenditures, then there is a need of a different level of control. I think in terms of procurement regimes, the idea is, of course, in one hand, government agencies try to receive the services as quick as possible. Okay, but at the same time, they also have to have a control to make sure that there is no abuse of power. Okay, so in one hand, they must get in terms of timeliness, they must get the services as how they plan. Okay, because of course, I mean, when you want to get the services, you try to support your activities. So must be according to the plan. Okay, shouldn't be any delay. That's one. The other is there also needs a certain level of control, so that either the government servant or the service providers, the contractors, will not abuse the transactions. Okay, within this continuum, I think that is why these control tools or procurement regimes have been introduced, right? Okay, the first one is central purchase. Central purchase, or they call it also bulk purchase. Okay, this one is purchased by the government at the central level. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, by the treasury. For common users item to promote local products and develop vendors. Okay, they have this option where government as a whole, okay, through Ministry of Finance, they purchase all the equipments or the equipments basically that can be used, can be channeled to all government agencies. Okay, so bulk purchase, or they call it central purchase. I think from the beginning, this mode of, when you can understand this, because when the government was so small, I think that's central purchase should be the way forward. But when there are so many agencies, more delegations, okay, so the needs also for each government agency is very unique. Then there is need of more delegation, so that at the local level, at the agency level, they can also make their own purchase. Right, and the following, I think that the direct purchase, quotation, and tender, this can be undertaken at the agency level. Okay, so let's say we go first the direct purchase. Supply and services up to the value of 50,000 through government order. Okay, direct purchase means they can buy directly from the vendor, okay, without need to go through quotation and tender. Works, okay, up to the value of 20,000. Okay, see that, supplies 50,000, work up to 20,000, may be done through the issue of work indent to a contractor. I think work intent to the is registered with the CIDB. So what it means there is it should be a letter of intent, work intent, being issued to the contractors, because the work of letter of intent is also as a part of the process for awarding the contracts, okay, awarding the job. And you can see that the contractor must be registered with CIDB. This one is works. This also applicable for supply and services. All government companies, all companies they want to provide services to the government, they must be registered with MOF at least. Ministry of, I think both. Okay, even for construction, they also have to register with MOF incorporated. Only, I mean, this is quite consistent. Even for agency level, before agency level, let's say you are to allow the government, the supplies to get government jobs from IIUM, all these contractors and suppliers must also register with MOF before they can get a job here. So that's one of the requirements for them to be able to tender or to bid for the job. Right, but on top of that, because work is very specified based on construction, then they also must have must register with CIDB, Construction Industry Development Board. These are statutory body that overseeing the construction industry in Malaysia, okay, particularly construction within the government. I think to promote the new technology, okay, sometimes I think that's the role of CIDB, okay, because they also at the same time to promote new technology in construction industry. Because in construction, I think one of the challenge is because steel in Malaysia is labor intensive, and so heavy reliant on foreign laborers. Okay, I mean previously, okay, Malaysian are working in the construction industry. I think because of more job opportunities in other sectors, so less group of people they want to work, or less Malaysian they want to work in construction industry. So the industry now is heavily dependent on the foreign workers, okay, foreign workers. So that is why there are two choices. One, of course, we can continue with the same technology with heavy reliance on foreign workers. But in recent time, foreign workers create what do you call it, uncertainties in the industry, because sometimes okay, because of COVID now, okay, it's very difficult to get workers, construction, foreign workers, and then because of other issues, okay, to monitor, okay, immigration issues and others. That's why I think there is an incentive for CIDB to bring in new technology, right? I think recently, I think there are at least two technologies that introduced by them. One of them is, of course, there are many, but I mean, if you are in the industry, definitely we understand the best for class discussion. For instance, they want to improve in terms of lesser reliance on foreign workers, so they use this technology. They call it what do you call it? IBS system, industrial building system. It means that casting is being made in the factory, and then in the construction site, it's just a matter of installation. Okay, just to install. Okay, if you understand Lego, you know Lego games, Lego. So like Lego or Lego. Class, are you with me? Or you gone already?
Lego, Lego,
Yeah.
Lego.
So, you know,
Legoland.
Legoland, yeah, exactly. So you have already ready-made bricks, then you build up just installation. So similarly, there is a Lego type technology construction. They call it IBS, it's Industrial Building System, where the construction of the bricks, okay, been made in the factory, and then that's why you can see sometimes from time to time in the street, in the highway, you can see big trucks carrying construction material, what do you call it, column, and also the what do you call it, the yeah beams, the beams and columns, okay, big construction materials being transferred. These are basically part of this IBS technology that is introduced by CIDB. Okay, but because for in developed countries, these are common. Okay, so you can see recently there was cases in China, isn't it, when they can during the COVID also. Okay, construction of hospitals just within, I think, what, 1 week. Okay, huge complex of hospital can be constructed within 1 week. 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month in China. I think China proved that they also can. I think that last time there was a construction, elevated buildings. I think around, I can't remember, the 30 levels that can be constructed within 1 week. Okay, but of course that mostly steel material, steel structure, so they can do that. But what I'm saying is that because they can save time, okay, I think time is money. Okay, in construction, I was told that time is money. If you can save time, you can also save money. Okay, so in a way, right? So you can see the role of the government, okay, through their agencies. They can promote certain transfer of technology within the industry or agencies that are basically. Right. So direct purchase quotation. Okay, direct purchase mean directly. Yeah. So they just buy directly to the registered suppliers. Okay, a bit harder. They call it quotation. Supply and services above the value of 50,000 to up to 500,000 for the work from 20 to 500,000. Okay, so what they can do is they can request 5 quotations, at least 5 quotations from the selected suppliers. I mean, registered and selected suppliers. But that like direct purchase is only one, whereas quotation is more than one. So at least the required is 5. So they must show that they choose 5. Okay, and then from there they will decide. Okay, which will be the winner. Okay, to get the job. Okay, above quotation is tender. Tender work supplies above 500,000. Okay, both of them, above 500,000. Local tenders must be registered with the government. Foreign tender may be invited if there is no local tender with specific expertise. Right? So the tender take longer time because of everybody can join, particularly those who are registered. But this registration of companies within the certain scope of, I think, what they call it, vote. Because not every company can register within the scope that is specified by the procurement, by the, let's say, CIDB or by the MOF. Only companies that have track record and they can meet the requirements. So that's why if you look at certain services, uh, the players can be only 10, okay, or maybe 15, or maybe the whole wide world. If you talk about a plane, a plane maker is only 2, okay, so only 2 can the government can buy. I mean, for the passenger plane, I think for other type of planes, maybe many. All right. So they only with a good track record that is suitable for the job, they can register. Okay, once they get themselves registered, only they can bid for the projects. Okay, and on top of that, there's another mode, they call it direct negotiation. So direct negotiation cannot be done at the agency level. Okay, this at the government level. Okay, at the cabinet level. Okay, so you can see that high value procurement, urgent or few reputable suppliers and contractors. I think if you look at vaccine. So, what do you think? What mode of procurement that was used by the government? Direct negotiation or quotation or tender? Vaccine. You know, vaccine they buy from these vaccine companies. Anyone make a good guess?
Direct, maybe.
Yeah, it sounds direct negotiation. Okay, because of course direct negotiations because of speed time, right? Not and the nature of the products, because the whole country need this. 30 million people need this. Not only 30 million, maybe plus another 7 million. We have what I call it international communities in Malaysia. So almost 40 million vaccine we need. Then the government have to buy, and also time is critical. And then the way that when it was presented in the media, I think most likely it's a direct negotiation. I think, but the process of accountability was there. I think the process of procurement was presented in the parliament as well as in public account committee. So you can see that in parliament, basically both sides of members of parliament from government as well as from opposition. On top of that, they also presented in public account committee. Okay, so at public account committee involved, the head is very mixed. Okay, it's not only from ruling government. Okay, definitely headed by the opposition. Now it's headed by, I think, member of parliament from the AP. So still, they are very satisfied with the procurement process. You can see that. So that direct negotiation by itself sometimes is important. Okay, sometimes it's the only way forward for the best interest of the country. Of course, at the same time, it can be also subjected to abuse. So in good time, sometimes people, there are remarks made about direct negotiation. But during this COVID, you can see the benefit of direct negotiation. Because if it is using tender and others, it will take long time because the nature of the awarding process of the projects. Okay, so look at this evaluation and decision-making process. An example. So good and services. Okay, I think we talk about quantum, we talk about methods. Now evaluation process. For direct purchase, right? Below 20,000 through the evaluation is market survey and decision maker head of department. Okay, I think it's good. This slide it shows also who is the decision maker. Okay, so of course the head of department here depending on their level of authority. Yeah. Okay, let's say in the case of our university, okay, like the dean can purchase up to 10,000 or 20,000. Otherwise, all the purchase had to be made at the central through this department, to the finance unit. Okay. So, but of course, you can see direct purchase. Direct purchase means very fast. Okay, you can choose your suppliers, and then you can get the services quickly. It can be done within maybe a week or a month. Okay, recently I think we also have this initiative to help the needy students because of laptops. So I think if we purchase directly, it's much faster. As compared to have to go through the division, finance division and the university level. Okay, so it will be lengthy. Of course, the in terms of services, in terms of efficiency and effective, very good, but there is also issue of control, because it's a big, it's amount. That's why I think this is allowed only a very low, the lower level of amount of money, because somehow there is need, but because of the time, but at the same time, it cannot be too big. Otherwise, it can subject to abuse of power. Okay, but, I mean, this is control. I think the control normally in accounting we assume high risk, isn't it? Okay. Secondly, for quotations, so the evaluation process, technical evaluation committee and price evaluation committee. So you can see clearly. Yeah. Try to understand this a bit more. Let's say we talk about buying computers, 500,000. What can we buy with 500,000? Let's say very good equipments, computers. Let's say computer lab. Okay, computer lab, right? So I think in Korea, are you in the department? Are you in the campus? We have labs in our Korea now. Okay. If you want to use the general lab, I think you can request from the office to open up the general lab. I think if you can come to the campus or to the kuliah. So if you look at, let's say, lab, then you have the computers and the lab, the buildings and all that, the rooms. So you can see that there is technical members as well as price. So of course, technical is they look at specification, isn't it? Because specifications need to be developed first. When there is a need of to have procurements, so spec must be developed separately. Cannot be coming from the person who providing the services. So normally, specifications need to be developed by a separate party, okay, to ensure the independent. In that way, then somehow you can the government can control in terms of good quality with competitive costs. Okay, because at the end, when the spec must be complete. If the specification not complete, then when the product be delivered, there are always loopholes. When there are loopholes, then you need extra procurements. That's one. Or you can, I think later on we'll discuss. In any procurements, they always have element of variation of order, VO, because of if you buy something, they always have loopholes. I mean, in a way that is accepted, but it's just that the variation shouldn't be too big. Okay, unless the procedures allows. Okay, generally I think they put cap for variations up to between 10 to 20%. Okay, but you can see that so there must be technical people who understand the products and services that can provide their expert view the procurement process. The other is price, of course, the cost. I think the cost must reflect cost effectiveness, market price basically. Okay, it shouldn't be too high. Okay, I think it's good nowadays. Also, you can have a look at what do you call it, audit reports, where sometimes very poor products, goods, shoes, okay, or uniform, but very high price. Sometimes very, okay, very cheap tools, but the price is very high. I mean, from time to time, the auditors somehow are able to highlight some of these reports or issues. Okay, so you can see that the cost is the total cost for the government, and also in terms of to make sure that the services, the product and services function as it should be. So must cover these two, isn't it? Technical, to make sure that it can work. You don't buy something that, you know, when it is being installed in the government buildings, so the facilities cannot be used. Okay, so how to address that? We need technical people, right? So there is technical committee. But in terms of cost, I mean, definitely need to evaluate separately. Okay, so with these two, it can become to form a complete evaluation. So the committee is quotation committee. Yeah? And then we have a tender, open tender. Okay, so similar group of committee members, and then but through tender board. Okay, so above 20 million they call it board A, below 20 million board B. So I think the difference is members of the board, the tender board. So must be independent. And they shouldn't have any direct relationship with the companies that basically bidding for the projects and others. Okay, I think similar pattern you can see that in terms of evaluation process and decision maker for works. Any question? Okay, so I think how many slides still? A few more slides. Okay, I think for today, we stop here. We look at the e-procurements. I think these are the website by the government. You just have a quick look here. The mandate 2000, and then there is a website for procurements. E-Perolehan, electronic procurement system to facilitate government and government suppliers. I think in a way, I think E-Perolehan, one of the mechanisms is also try to speed up the procurement process. That one is also try to be fair in terms of the selections of the suppliers. Okay, the module enable the government to carry out the following activities: plan and expenditure and procurement, search, select, evaluate, and appoint suppliers. Okay, creating and managing government contracts and others. Okay, let us have a look on this at this website. I think just for awareness. Okay, before that, I think I have to. Okay, hold on. And share again. E-procurement, yeah, this one. Okay, so these are basically E-Perolehan, the website. Hopefully, I think maybe some of you, if you already government suppliers, you get access to some of these links, right? To help in the government. I think definitely for suppliers, for them to get the updates, where they can get the projects. Okay, some of these options definitely they can enter and to get information for them to bid for the projects. Okay, have a look. I think they have English. Yeah, they have English also. Okay. I think for international students, have a look. Okay. Maybe you can compare against your country. Malaysia still have. Where to go? Nowadays, I think all countries are basically can use this system, isn't it? Where to? Oops, I think I couldn't. What to do? It's Zoom. Okay. Yes. So this is a website. Still in Malay. Okay. So the item here in English, isn't it? Okay. I think some of these are available for other users. Let's say circulars. Yeah. Okay. These are circulars by the government, by the treasury. Okay. Maybe the listing. You see the new supplier registration. Okay, that's what I'm saying just now. Before you can bid into government projects, you need to register first. Just like private companies. Okay, if you want to buy from anyone, so they must register with the company first as a authorized suppliers before they can start selling. I think the same thing, isn't it? Quotation and tender notice. Yeah, these are for public tender, isn't it? So this what do you call it? Invitation to tender. So it depends on the class of the suppliers as well. Okay, so I have a quick look. Maybe in the future, either you work here or you become government suppliers. Okay, these are one of the areas where you can explore as part of your business, inshallah. Okay, but to be fair, be transparent and others. Right, I think that's for discussion. This we'll discuss in next class. The remaining class, another half. Okay, any question, class? Any question? Okay, there is question. 1 week, sir. Oh, what is that? Oh, yeah. Oh, the procurement. The construction, the steel construction in. Is it the hospital construction? 1 week in China. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the use of technology. Quite hard work and efficiency and okay. So 1 week construction, definitely they save a lot of, if it is a labor intensive, they can save a lot of labor hours, right? They can save a lot of labor hours. So once you can save labor hours, all this amount of money can be channeled to materials, okay, quality of the buildings. So all these need to be, taken into account. So when you talk about procurements, we discuss this. These are the discussion. Okay. Right. Okay. If no questions, I think we already used almost 1 hour. I think the remaining I will keep that for the next class. Right. So with that, no questions. I will end this lecture with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.